The film begins by showing a father named Keller Dover teaching his son, Ralph Dover, how to hunt deer in the woods near Conyers, Pennsylvania. That night, Keller, along with his family, including his wife, Grace Dover, and his youngest daughter, Anna Dover, go to their good neighbors, the Franklin Birch family, to celebrate Thanksgiving together. The two families are very close, especially since Franklin also has children around the same age as Ralph and Anna, named Eliza Birch and Joy Birch. After dinner, Anna and Joy walk around their house accompanied by their older siblings until they approach an RV parked by the side of the road. Not wanting their siblings to cause trouble, Ralph and Eliza quickly take their younger siblings back to the house. Shortly after, Anna asks Keller for permission to go to her house to get a toy with Joy. Moments later, Keller realizes that Anna and Joy went unsupervised, causing him to panic and immediately check the house. Unfortunately, Keller does not find the two little girls, making all family members worried and starting a search around their house. Ralph and Eliza also look for the RV that had previously caught their little sister's attention, but the vehicle is already gone. Because of this, the two families report Anna and Joy's disappearance to the police, where Detective Loki is assigned to handle the case. That night, Loki and his team find the RV parked at the edge of the woods. When the police surround the vehicle, the driver tries to escape, crashing the RV into a tree. The police immediately inspect the RV but find no clues of abduction and arrest the driver, Alex Jones. At the police station, Loki interrogates Alex for 10 hours about the whereabouts of Joy and Anna, but Alex strangely doesn't provide any helpful information. Consequently, Loki instructs his team to form a special search unit and re-examine Alex's RV. Despite conducting a thorough inspection, the police find no clues that could help them locate the two missing little girls. Not willing to give up, Loki decides to visit the home of Alex, who has been living with his aunt, Holly. Upon arrival, Loki notices an old, rusty car before meeting Holly to ask a few questions about her nephew. Holly then explains that she has been taking care of Alex since he was 10 years old. Despite examining Alex's room, Loki finds no clues during his investigation. The search is also conducted in the woods around where Alex's RV was found, but after 24 hours, the police still have not found any clues regarding Anna and Joy's disappearance. Loki then calls the families of the two victims to the police station for questioning. During the interview, Keller becomes upset and frustrated with the police for not yet designating Alex as a suspect. Loki explains that Alex has a mental disability and did not say anything helpful during the interrogation, so the police cannot immediately designate him as the perpetrator. Furthermore, if the police do not obtain evidence of Alex's involvement within the next 24 hours, they will have to release him. Hearing this, Keller becomes even more frustrated and decides to leave the police station. On the other hand, Loki also feels frustrated, especially since he is known for solving every case he handles. Loki then pleads with his superior to detain Alex for a longer period, although this request is unlikely to be granted. To continue the investigation, Loki tries to find Anna and Joy by visiting the homes of people previously involved in sexual assault cases. After visiting several houses, Loki arrives at the home of a priest named Patrick Dunn. Unfortunately, when he attempts to interrogate him, the former priest is unconscious from being drunk. So Loki searches the house until he discovers a secret room where he finds the body of someone wearing a maze pendant. Loki immediately questions Patrick about the identity of the body, and Patrick confesses to killing the man 5 years ago after the man admitted to murdering 16 children. The next day, Keller and others search along the river in the forest to ensure that Anna and Joy are not missing because they were swept away. During the search, Keller receives news that Alex has been released, so he rushes to the police station to confirm this. At that moment, Loki explains that he cannot do much because detaining Alex longer would be against the law. Angry, Keller approaches Alex, who suddenly says that Anna and Joy did not cry before he left them. Upon hearing this, Keller immediately informs Loki and other police officers. Strangely, when Loki reinterrogates Alex, he says nothing, leaving him wondering who is telling the truth. At home, Grace's condition deteriorates because her daughter has not been found, and tranquilizers do not help at all. Grace even blames Keller for not being able to take good care of their daughter. As the situation becomes increasingly chaotic, Keller decides to conduct his own investigation by monitoring Alex's movements until he notices Alex's other personality mistreating his pet. Without hesitation, Keller points his gun at Alex on the street. The next morning, Keller takes Franklin to his parents' house, located not far from their neighborhood, where he has kidnapped Alex. Franklin is shocked that his friend would go to such lengths and tries to reason with Keller. On the other hand, Loki continues trying to solve the kidnapping case of Anna and Joy by visiting the parents of another child kidnapping victim whose case is almost identical to Keller's. According to the testimony, the woman in front of Loki says that years ago, her son Barry was abducted by someone driving an RV, and he has not been found since. Meanwhile, Keller and Franklin spend their time interrogating Alex, even beating the young man severely because he refuses to talk, despite Keller threatening to kill him with a hammer. That night, the news of Anna and Joy's disappearance spreads throughout the city, causing many residents to gather in front of Franklin and Keller's homes to express their condolences. Amid the crowd, Loki suddenly spots a suspicious young man who then flees when he tries to chase him. Quickly, Loki disseminates the news about the mysterious young man's face so that anyone who sees him can immediately contact the police. After the appearance of the suspicious young man, Franklin begins to doubt his actions with Keller in torturing Alex. Despite this, Keller feels that the young man is just a distraction because Alex is still hiding something. One day, Loki is shocked by the news of Alex's disappearance, even though Loki thought his superior had sent someone to watch him, who was previously suspected of being the kidnapper. Because of this, Loki becomes increasingly frustrated as the case grows more complicated. One afternoon, a clothing store clerk informs Loki that the mysterious man reported on television frequently buys children's clothes from her store every week. With this information, Loki rushes to the clothing store to gather more details. Meanwhile, Franklin's wife, Nancy, finally learns about the confinement of Alex by Keller and her husband. As a result, Franklin brings Nancy to speak directly with Alex. At that moment, Nancy appears calm and tries to persuade Alex to reveal the whereabouts of Joy and Anna. Feeling pity for Alex's battered condition, Nancy even unties Alex's hands to encourage him to talk, but he uses the opportunity to attack Nancy. Fortunately, Keller and Franklin arrive in time to save her. After this incident, Keller locks Alex in a small, dark room with a hot water tap. Whenever Alex refuses to answer questions, he is scalded with hot water. Although inhumane, Keller insists on doing whatever it takes to find his daughter. At the same time, a mysterious man named Bob Taylor, who is wanted by the police, sneaks into the Birch family's house while Franklin and Nancy are outside. Shortly afterward, Franklin and his wife return home to find someone has entered their house. Unfortunately, Franklin fails to catch Bob, who escapes through a window. Bob then sneaks into the Dover family home and enters Anna's room. Grace, hearing someone in Anna's room, rushes to check but finds no one, as Bob has escaped without a trace through the window. Because of this, Grace immediately calls the police, thinking her daughter has returned. Not long after, Loki arrives at the Dover household and finds nothing unusual, assuming Grace is hallucinating. Grace then asks Loki to check the basement to ensure Anna is not there. During the inspection, Loki accidentally finds alkaline powder bags commonly used for cremation. Loki wonders why Keller is storing such powder. His suspicion grows after Grace mentions that Keller comes home late almost every night while searching for Anna with the police. The next day, Loki decides to follow Keller, but Keller, realizing this, stops by a liquor store and pretends to be drunk so he can get into his car. At that moment, Keller questions why Loki is following him, and Loki questions Keller about his nightly activities, leading to an argument between them. Annoyed, Keller gets out of Loki's car and decides to go home. Intoxicated, Keller falls asleep and dreams of Anna pleading for help to be found. Upon waking, Keller immediately goes to the house where he is holding Alex captive to continue interrogating him. During this attempt, Alex says that he is not Alex. Keller, not understanding Alex's statement, becomes increasingly frustrated as he still has not found any crucial clues about Anna's disappearance. Shortly after, Loki suddenly bursts into the house where Alex is being held, causing Keller to panic because he could be imprisoned if Loki discovers that he has kidnapped Alex. To deceive the detective, Keller pretends that he often spends time at the house drinking, but Loki does not believe him and begins searching every room. Just as Loki is about to enter the room where Alex is being tortured, he receives a call from the clothing store clerk informing him that Bob has just arrived at her store. The clerk also provides Bob's vehicle number, prompting Loki to leave the house to search for him. With the information from the clerk, Loki successfully locates Bob's house, where he finds rotting pork in the kitchen and several locked boxes in a room. Unable to open the boxes without tools, Loki decides to detain Bob in his car and then retrieves a crowbar, which he uses to open all the suspicious boxes. Inside, Loki discovers blood-stained children's clothing, several snakes, and some maze drawings that he does not understand. Sometime later, Keller and Franklin are called to the police station to identify the clothing of the kidnapping victims found in Bob's boxes. Based on Bob's testimony, all the children he kidnapped have been killed, but he does not explain where he buried their bodies. When Franklin and Nancy examine the photos of the found clothing, they finally identify Joy's clothes, indicating that their daughter is dead. Keller also has to face the bitter reality that Anna is dead after recognizing her blood-stained socks in the photos. Upon arriving home, Keller asks Ralph to keep Grace away from the TV and newspapers so that she does not become hysterical upon hearing the news of Anna's death. Apparently, Keller plans to inform Grace after the police have found his daughter's body. In the interrogation room, the police ask Bob to draw a map showing the location of the victims' bodies. However, after hours in the room, Bob only draws a labyrinth, causing Loki to become frustrated and nearly attack him. Several officers intervene to stop Loki, unaware that Bob has taken one of the officers' guns and uses it to do the unthinkable. Meanwhile, Keller continues torturing Alex to get him to reveal the location of Anna's body. From his efforts, Alex finally says that the children are trapped in a labyrinth. Unfortunately, Alex does not explain the location of the labyrinth, prompting Keller to visit Holly and pretend to apologize for his recent behavior. At that moment, Keller tries to gather more information about Alex, and Holly shares that he started exhibiting strange behavior after being bitten by her husband's pet snake when Alex was a child. During their conversation, Keller sees a news report on TV about Bob's death. At the police station, Loki feels guilty about Bob's death and wonders about the meaning of the labyrinth drawing he made. After examining the drawing, Loki realizes that Bob's labyrinth drawing closely resembles the pendant found on the body in the secret room at Patrick's house. Moreover, the forensic team reported that the blood on Anna's and Joy's clothes was not human blood but pig blood. Additionally, no children's bodies were found around Bob's house, except for the discovery of a child statue buried next to the house. In further investigation, the police learned that Bob had been a kidnapping victim as a child and was injected with a special drug that made him forget the kidnapper's face. Due to this trauma, Bob began to feel that he was the kidnapper and was known to read books about various child abduction cases. Additionally, all the children's clothes in the boxes were new ones Bob bought from the store, except for Anna's and Joy's. With all this information, Loki understood that Bob had come to the Birch and Dover homes to steal Anna's and Joy's clothes. When Loki revisited the crime scene at Keller's house, he found traces of Bob's escape, including Anna's sock that had fallen under her bedroom window. Sometime later, the police found Joy alive by the roadside and immediately took her to the hospital. Upon hearing this, Keller and Grace rushed to the hospital to find out about Anna's whereabouts. From Joy's testimony, she and Anna had been drugged by the kidnapper and ordered to complete a labyrinth puzzle book. Whoever finished first was promised freedom. When the kidnapper was distracted, Joy and Anna tried to escape, but unfortunately, Anna was recaptured by the kidnapper. Strangely, Joy mentioned hearing Keller's voice while she was being held captive. With Joy's testimony, Keller realized who had kidnapped his daughter. Unfortunately, the police suspected that Keller was the kidnapper, prompting him to flee from the hospital to avoid capture. Loki then tried to find Keller at the secret house Keller had previously visited. Upon arriving at the location, Loki found only Alex, who was screaming for help. Meanwhile, Keller goes to Holly's house, who is the mastermind behind the kidnapping of Anna and Joy. Realizing that her cover has been blown, Holly points a gun at Keller, while he asks to see Anna, and Holly agrees on the condition that he wears handcuffs and drinks a provided poison. At this point, the truth begins to unfold, as Holly and her husband used to kidnap children as an act of revenge against God for taking their child. Alex was their first victim, and Bob was also kidnapped by Holly, which led to his trauma. With her gun aimed at him, Holly instructs Keller to move the rusty car in front of the house and open a secret compartment beneath it. At that moment, Keller repeatedly calls his daughter's name through the opening but hears no response from Anna. Unexpectedly, Holly traps Keller in the hole. Using a small flashlight, Keller found Anna's whistle in the hole and prayed for his daughter's safe return. That same night, Loki is ordered by his superior to visit Holly's house and report on the discovery of Alex. When Holly sees Loki approaching her house, she panics, fearing arrest. In her panic, Holly injects Anna with a special serum. Loki eventually breaks into Holly's house after she fails to answer the door. He searches for Holly and finds a photo of her husband wearing a labyrinth pendant similar to the one found on the kidnapper's body at Patrick's house. This clue confirms to Loki that Holly is the main culprit behind the kidnappings of Anna and Joy. Unfortunately, Holly has already injected Anna, causing her to lose consciousness. Loki then shoots Holly dead, though he is grazed by a bullet from her gun, injuring his head. Despite his injury, Loki rushes to get the foaming at the mouth Anna to the nearest hospital. The next day, a newspaper article reveals that Alex is actually Barry, a child who was kidnapped 26 years ago. Another article reports the mysterious disappearance of Keller following his departure from the hospital. At the hospital, Loki, now receiving treatment, is visited by Anna and Grace, who thank him for saving her daughter. At that moment, Grace mentions that Keller is a good father and that, despite torturing Alex, he did everything to find Anna. In the film's final scene, Loki and his team return to Holly's house to dig for more kidnapping victims. As night falls, Loki tells his colleague to continue the digging the next day. After everyone leaves, Loki suddenly hears the sound of a whistle coming from beneath the old car in front of Holly's house. Moral lesson from the story: always carry a whistle when exploring the woods, just in case you need to alert a detective to your secret hideout. And remember, sometimes the family next door might be hiding more than just your favorite toy.